It's Tuesday, 28th of October 25, and I'm just looking at the latest polls. So, the latest election polls in the UK. And I'm looking just because it's very interesting in the moment because the Greens are on a big surge at the moment under Zach Polanski. Reform are in the lead and have consolidated it, but they don't seem to be moving with the same momentum. Maybe that's to be expected, because this time last year they were around about 15% or something. Now they're around about 30%. So who knows? But and the other thing, Labour are finally sinking. I don't know why, but they have seemed to have been clinging on to the low 20%, 22%, maybe even a bit higher. But YouGov today had them down at 17%. And I take YouGov as a sort of, quote, socially conservative, old-fashioned pollster, They might be using the older method where for they don't know is they, they take how you voted before. But I don't think that counts anymore, because you've got Reform, New Party, you've got your party about to come up, and you've got the Greens totally changed over the last month or two. So that old method doesn't really work anymore, right? And people are thinking of switching all the time now, I think. So, yeah, and apparently with youth, Greens are at 40% now, which is a massive rise. But Reform have also come up, this is in YouGov, from 4% to 12%. There was another poll that had the youth, say, between 16 and 18-year-olds, they were around about 18% for Reform, I think, so I don't know. In Scotland, it seems like Reform are finally coming up into second place, although I don't know about that yet. Of course, in Wales, Reform are in the lead now, so the Welsh are ahead of the Scots on this issue. And I'm viewing this from an Overton window referendum point of view. I think at the moment, the way the country is, you have to vote in a referendum, really. We never got a referendum on 1948. In 1948, we've never been able to speak of that. So at the moment, I'm just treating the electoral system as a referendum, as an Overton window, and for that, it has to be Reform at the moment. It could be Advance once they come around, Advance UK. So that's how I'm viewing it. I mean, if it wasn't for that, I don't believe in party hampers, but if I would say that probably I would be the Greens or something, I've come over from Greens, SNP, Labour I gave up with quite a while ago. For me it's been SNP, Greens, bit of Lib Dem as well even, but now I'm voting in one issue, and for that you've got to abandon the left, you've got to go for Reform, can't even go for the Tories really, although yeah, so let's just look at the national poll first. This is a national poll, and I'm looking at stats for lefties on X, an excellent X account. And I'm just looking, this is by Lord A polls, which I've never heard before, and it was taken between 16th and 20th October. And yeah, they're showing us at Reform at 28%, so some others Find Out now has Reform at around about 35%, so it shows you it's really varying quite a bit. Labour down at 18, and that's down 4 over the last month. So it looks like Labour are finally dropping, which is great. Personally, I think if you're under 20% consistently in the polls, you should call a general election if you are the ruling party, but no chance of that under Sir Keir. He's a very intolerant guy and old-fashioned as well. Conservatives 18%. In a way, that are relevant really at the moment. Greens 17%, they're up 4, and the Lib Dems then on 11%, plus 1. I mean, Lib Dems to me, they're irrelevant in most parts of the country, but apart from sort of central England, outside the cities, and the southwest of England, and I'm not sure why that is, but it's interesting that I noticed that I don't know if it's an exact pattern, but where people are fleeing, say, cities of the area, and well, we don't know if they're fleeing, but they used to call it flight, and I think the sort of pattern, where native Brits have moved to, most areas they've moved out of, but some areas have moved into. And to me, it looks like Lib Dem areas, that's where they've moved to. But so I don't know if that's. I could be wrong about that, So the Greens, I can't actually understand their voter base, I mean, I can think of some just typical, but I can't understand why it might be in their cities like Bristol or Manchester even. They're starting to get Manchester now. Not that I'm against it, because like I say, I don't believe in party systems, but the Greens would be the sort of one that I'd follow, apart from one issue, which is the only issue to vote on at the moment, because Ben Habib says that the next election in 2029 could be existential, so yeah, so that's that one national poll. I'll see if I can find an aggregate of them all. This is from the X account of Britain Elects, and they've got their own poll tracker, so that's sort of an aggregate of the polls, and they've got Reform at 30.6%, Labour at 19.3%, Conservatives 17.6%, Lib Dems 13.4%, Greens 11.6%, that's up 5%, but I think that's missing most of the Green surge at the moment, I don't know, and others 7.3%, so and yeah, it's just and Reform are up 1 for them, Labour down 2, Tories up 1, Lib Dem no change, Green up 3. That's compared to 2 months ago. So yeah. Anyway, just looking at stats for lefties on the X channel. There you can see the Greens 16% via YouGov, which I regard as a sort of quote socially conservative, old-fashioned type of the pollsters. I think it was actually the guy who was a Tory MP who created it around about 15 years ago. The guy that came over from Iraq, and he became a British citizen when he was youth, and he became really high up in the government, Tory government. So I mean, this is fantastic. I mean, I don't agree with the first past the post system. I think it's very undemocratic. I mean, the European Court of Human Rights, Labour will always tell you that if we leave it, then it's just the UK, Russia and Belarus who aren't part of it. Whereas first past the post system in Europe, it's only the UK and Belarus that use it, so not even Russia use it, But this just proves that we need proportional representation at least, which Zach Polanski is very in favour of, and I think that's one of the main reasons he came into politics actually. And Reform were in favour of it, but I don't know if they are now. I think there's maybe poacher turned gatekeeper, which would be very disappointing. We've got to, everyone's vote's got to count, So Labour, I mean, Keir Starmer will be totally against it, I would imagine. I think he's the only unlikable Prime Minister I've ever known, He seems really intolerant, which is ironic, because he's a human rights lawyer. But I don't think anybody supports him, even the left, his own cabinet, his own MPs. I don't think anyone, basically. Either he's done the dirty on them, or he's just been intolerant. Anyway, so they're on 17. I mean, that's absolutely shocking, I think it's the lowest I've ever been in a YouGov poll. One of the lowest. Possibly even lower than Jeremy Corbyn, who in 2017 get 40% of the vote, but Theresa May get 42%. She get one of the highest votes ever. Maybe it was an anti-vote, anti-Corbyn, but Corbyn got a lot in that. He got about 12 million in that. And then in 2019, Keir Starmer was Corbyn's Brexit minister, and he regards that as a low point. Jeremy Corbyn get more votes than him on that election. So this is incredible the way it's spread out here, and the Greens are coming, well, they're only at 1 on this poll from YouGov, but I think the Greens are a real force, and I'm really impressed with Zach Polanski, as I've said before. I mean, the only thing that puts me off really is just one issue, which is the only issue we should be voting for. Anyone who's not voting on that issue, who's anxious about it. If you're not anxious, I mean, a lot of people might be anxious the other way, and they want the place to be open fully, not just tons of loopholes. Yeah, that's all you should be voting for. So especially if you're a SNP, Labour, Green voter who's worried about it, you've got to switch. Forget about left and right and all that. Just switch. You want a referendum on it. View it that way, or you want an Overton window shift. So 8% others, and I don't know if that's your party, Jeremy Corbyn's party, or independent candidates. I suppose it's Plaid Cymru as well, and SNP. So, yeah. So hopefully this is the end of first past the post anyway. But there's some really interesting things coming up. We've got BAME voters here. Yeah, I think that's a name we should use, For a while there, the legacy corporate media were telling us not to use this name, but I think that's fair enough. Because it means, well, I can't even say on YouTube what it means, but Global South. Global South, as they call ourselves, or what's the other word? I can't remember at the moment. So we've got Greens on 17%, Lib Dems 1, because this is really important. But you really need others in this as well, because I think this group are going to vote identity parties or independents or anti-reform parties. And I was just hearing about Caerphilly last week, which Reform were expected to win, but they didn't win. And that Labour have held that MP seat since 1918. It's a former coal town, I think, in Wales, near Cardiff. Well, Reform got the amount of votes that Nigel Farage expected, 12,000. But Plaid Cymru got a lot more. Nobody expected that. There was over 50% voted. More voted in this Senate by-election, which is the Welsh Parliament, rather than they do at the Welsh Senate elections, So this by-election, more people voted. And the feeling is it was just anti-reform people, and that seems to be happening all over the West. We saw it in France with their thing where Le Pen done well in the first round, but in the second round they all collided for a anti-Le Pen thing. I don't think that'll hold for long, because at some point people with a long history in these countries they're going to come to their senses. Well, not come to their senses, they're going to vote the way they want to vote. At the moment they feel it's a bad thing, and they think that the left MPs will call them the R word and stuff, but you've really got to think of your grandchildren and stuff. I just saw a lady this morning on YouTube crying about thinking about her grandchildren, So looking at this, Greens up 17 amongst the BAME. That's no surprise, really. I think Zach Polanski's very open borders, so that'll be good to them. Well, they need a sort of Trojan party, because they can't vote for identity or thing. I mean, identity parties. There's a Aspire party in East London, and in the neighbouring area at council level, there's the independents, who all seem to be together and have surnames of a certain type. It's not Tower Hamlets, it might be, but I think it's can't remember. It used to be a real solid Labour area. So Lib Dems +1, Labour down 19, Tories down 44, Reform down 62. No, wait a minute. No, yeah, I don't know how that's happened. Then maybe it's because I don't know why they were voting for Reform in the first place, but maybe it was to do with that right to leave thing that Reform have said they're going to abolish, thankfully. Yeah, a lot of countries don't have that, like Germany. I'm not even sure America has it. They might. Yeah, although they might be abolishing it soon, I would imagine, under Trump. But yeah, Labour down 19. So let's look at this. Unfavourable, well, BAME, 76% of BAME find reform unfavourable, 14% in favour. Alright, that's the difference, yeah. So, yeah, reform are unfavourable, that's obvious. Tories, 67% unfavourable, 23% favourable. Labour, 55% unfavourable, so that's pretty big there, maybe, because they have been the party to change Britain since 1948. That really, I think people coming over in dinghies would say to the British people, keep voting Labour. They probably still do, but they're a bit thingy now. Vote Greens, Labour, Lib Dem, etc. Or even the Tories, it's not too bad, but don't know what reform that would be, I think, what they would say. Labour, 36% are in favour of Labour, so that's pretty high compared to national polls, you know, so they've still got a big chunk there. Lib Dems, 39%. I'd say they're softer than Labour on this. 38 unfavourable, and the Green Party is obviously the favourites, I would say. 47% down 30, and there's a few other interesting ones here. Yeah, and they're just explaining their yeah, people of colour, but I think they refer to themselves as the Global South, or I think when Hamza Yusuf was saying that when he was SNP leader and he was going to the COP conference or whatever about climate change, etc., he said we need to, this part of the world needs to give reparations or whatever to do with climate change, reparations to this part of the world, and he referred to it as the Global South, and we were to understand what he meant from that, you know. So yeah, and I think it was I don't know what he referred to the others, the ones that were meant to give them climate reparations, the First World or the West, I don't know what he called it. Yeah. So, and this is this YouGov poll again, says we're seeing, that's just fantastic news really, to me. I mean, ideally I would like it to be the Greens versus Reform really. For a while it looked like Lib Dems versus Reform to me, but Labour were still hanging on, which I don't understand. I'm surprised the Tories are so high there. Yeah, but we'll see anyway. Stats for lefties has their own way of estimating the seats, which is the important bit because that's all that matters. I mean, Labour get like 34% of the vote last year, only 59% turned out. That's one of the lowest ever. I think maybe since the war, I don't know, but well. But Keir Starmer isn't worried about that because he gets 2/3 of the MPs. So it's saying here the reform would be on 372. You need over 325 for a majority. Lib Dems 88, Labour 48. So would Keir imagine that to be the low point for Labour? You know, I think Jeremy Corbyn in 2019 got about 200 seats. SNP 46, Tories 29, Greens 25, Plaid 7. Yeah, this is what Stats for Lefties reckons the Greens would win 25 seats. Birkenhead, Brighton, Bristol, Cambridge, Hackney, Huddersfield. I mean, it's all Labour seats, I think, almost. Leeds, Lewisham, Manchester, North Herefordshire, Norwich, Reading, Sheffield, Stratford, Waveney. I mean, I don't really know how they're winning these places, you know. Liverpool, Wavertree. I mean, I never thought I would see Liverpool go towards away from Labour, you know, but I'm surprised Labour have got such a big support at the moment, really. Yeah, I've always thought of Greens as a socialist, really, so I don't know why. I feel that Labour's, well, they've got two types of voters, so I'm just surmising, like, they've got the traditional ones who just vote like a football team, but they've all gone now in Northern Wall, although they came back for the 24 election, I don't know why. And then you've got the activists, you know, who all seem to be hanging on to Labour, always still want to be a Labour member, you know, like John McDonnell and stuff. I don't know why, but Diane Abbott even, why are they staying with them? They could move to your party or whatever, you know, but I think a lot of them are moving to, well, your party, they're waiting for your party, they're taking ages to get ready. But they might switch to Greens actually, because Zach Balanski's a lot better leader than them. For some reason, here's a YouGov poll, but it's from 4th of June. Not that it matters, but do you support UK's NATO membership? Support 64%, oppose 4%. I'm really surprised at that, which is good, because I think we should be part of NATO. Labour 73 support, Tories 77, Reform 58, that was just a surprise. Opposed 12. I hope they're not going to become like the Donald Trump party, just random stuff, pro-Russia, crazy random stuff. I mean, it doesn't really matter to me at the moment. I'm just voting on one issue as a protest vote, as a Overton window thing, me. I'm not really a big reform thing, me. I'm not interested in their policies apart from this one. And even for that, I just seen them as Overton window. They're not good enough on it yet. But they seem to be getting better. Lib Dems 74, so that's a big surprise. Greens 62. It'd be interesting to see what SNP are, because up till around about 2012 they were anti-NATO, I wonder if Jeremy Corbyn's anti-NATO. Probably. This is this other poll. It's from yesterday. Lord A polls. I've never heard of them. Reform 28%. Labour 18, down 4. Tories 18, down 1. Greens 17, up 4. Lib Dems 11, up 1. Yeah, just some others. Green support from, this is from Green Elect's X channel. Green support from Generation Z hits new high. Greens 40%, that's plus 8. Labour 17%, down 12. Lib Dems 13, down 5. Reform 12, up 8. Tories 6, down 1. And this is YouGov who done this on the 20th of October. Oh no, it's 27th actually. Yeah, so yeah, I'm surprised it's taken so long for the Greens to get there, but it's obviously Zach Balanski. I think he's a incredible politician. When I say incredible, he should be the norm, but he's incredible because the others are so poor, especially like Keir Starmer. I mean, Kemi Badenoch's quite good, but she's got to be on one issue really. I mean, she has said things like not all cultures, some cultures are better than others, which is a bit of a shocking thing to say. Not that it's not true, but it's just shocking that at least we've got to this stage. She's not been arrested by the police, so is that the new barrier we can move to? I don't know, but yeah. And there, Green Alex is just pointing out that this is the highest Green polling ever via YouGov, 16%, and it's coming up pretty quick. Hopefully they'll take all their vote from Labour, as your party will as well. Hopefully Green and your party will come take it away from Labour really. And they've used the election maps site, used their nowcast system to predict what seats they would gain, because seats is all that matters. It doesn't matter percents really. Yeah, and they reckon the Greens would win 48% seats. No, wait a minute. No, they would win 52 seats. And here they've got the list here. Barking, Bethnal Green, so London seats. Labour, Birkenhead, came from Labour. Birmingham, Hall Green and Moseley, I think that's a very changed area, so maybe a lot are using that, voting for that as a sort of, for another reason rather than in general. Brighton, both of them, well, okay, or the other way. Yeah, Bristol Central, Bristol, all the Bristol seats by the looks of it, all gained from Labour mostly. Yeah, Cambridge, Canterbury, Cardiff, the whole of Cardiff really by the looks of it. Well, maybe more, but all from Labour. Ealing, I mean, I could see two groups supporting the Greens, moving to the Greens. There's those who like Zach's vision or his message, etc. And then there's those who it's something to do with the Middle East and it's the only place that they feel they can go for that. they might not be interested in the other things, and they're waiting for an identity party, or like they have in East London, the Aspire party. Maybe because a lot of them might not be concentrated enough, but we have got some concentrated areas like Leicester and Blackburn, which have already gone from Labour. Ealing, Exeter, Gorton, Hackney North and South. We've got Hackney, London, Hove, Huddersfield, Ilford. I mean, to me, I'm happy about it. Here's a strange one, Isle of Wight East. I mean, I always thought that whole place was Tory, and it's again from Tories. I'm not sure why that would be. All the rest seem to be from Labour. Oh, there's another one from Tory. Islington, so London, Kettering, Leeds. I can't believe these inner cities going for Labour, you know, but there could be two reasons why. One of two reasons. Lewisham, that's London again. London, Liverpool. I'm really surprised at that, you know. Manchester. I mean, all these inner cities. North Herefordshire, Norwich South, Oxford East, London, Reading, Sheffield, London, Stroud. I mean, Labour are going to have nowhere left really as a sort of base. Stroud, Tonbridge, is that down in the west, southwest, gained from the Conservatives. Tottenham, gained from Labour, that's the David Lammy seat. Waveney Valley, Hold, West Ham and Beckton, gained from Labour. Yeah, that's really amazing. They used the electoral calculus, I think another site's got, and from that they got 41 seats. I think it's really the same sort of type of seats again. Yeah. Anyway, that's it, and I'm viewing it from voting reform as an Overton window point of view. We could have a referendum if you want it. We should have had one in 1948, 58, 68, 78. Anytime. We never got a referendum, you know. David Cameron gave us 3 referendums, but not on this. And yeah, so people who vote SNP, Labour, Greens, etc., think of your children, grandchildren. Are you anxious about the way the country's going? Do you want to vote on a single issue rather than, you know, the old type that were, if you want to vote a single issue, vote reform, if you know what you know that issue is. That's all you can do at the moment. There's council by-elections coming up this week. Anyone lucky enough to have one, you can abandon Labour, Greens, SNP, etc. Switch to reform as a protest vote. Yeah. Don't think of the parties as, don't think of their collective, you know, their party hampers, or even identity. So, yeah, that's my points for today. Oh yeah, I wanted to find a Scottish poll. Wait a minute. Yeah, find out now done a poll from the 14th of October, so quite a while ago really. Well, no, over a week ago. Yeah, this is Scotland. We've got a proportional representation type. Well, we've got a 2-vote system. First one is first past the post, which I think I would do away with really, and the other is proportional representation from your region, and it's sort of elimination process, you know, that sort of thing. So you get to vote preferences, which I think is the way to do it, because then you can list your preferences in order. And people are saying they're confused about this, but I don't know. But anyway, SNP are on 21%, down 19. Oh, I'm looking at the second vote, which I think is more accurate. I don't know actually. Oh no, wait a minute, because one they might be voting one side, and then the other vote they might be doing the other. You know, because you can vote different ways. Well, I'll go by first past the post first then. So SNP 35, down 13, but they're way ahead. Labour 17, down 5. Reform 16, so they're not second place in it, not far off. Greens 9, they're up 8 in the first past the post. Lib Dems, so they probably wouldn't win any first past the post seats from that. Lib Dems 10, they're up 3, don't know why. Tories 8, down 14, so they're crashing really. And then there's a second bit, which I prefer. SNP 21. I think this is probably more accurate, but I don't know because I don't know where these people are voting. Reform 16%. So Greens 16, they're up 8. Labour 15, down 3. Tories 11, down 12. Lib Dems 10, up 5. So yeah, that's really interesting anyway. This is how Stats for Lefties works out using their model. At this point, I'm not really bothered about the models they use. Somebody needs to work out the seats because that's all that matters to the parties, and that's how you get to run the country, by seats. It's not by percentage vote. Yeah. So SNP would be on 66 seats, so that would be a majority by 1. You need 165 to majority. Reform would be 16 seats. Greens 15, Labour 14, Lib Dems 9, Tories 9. Look at the Tories, totally crashing now. Labour way down, and it would be, yeah, the Greens right up there, +7. So that's really interesting because I'm waiting for I have the feeling that, you know, Bernard Ponsonby, a respected journalist, a legacy corporate journalist, although he's got a YouTube channel. He was saying he thought that the Hamilton by-election was a one-off reform and they would sink again, but I don't think so. I think the Scottish people want to vote reform. All the other ones are in denial, really. They're either in denial or useful idiots, or they're making a conscious decision even though they want to vote reform. I would encourage anyone who supports SNP, Greens, Labour, etc., vote reform any chance you get. Council by-election, anything. Just vote as if it's a referendum on one issue. Yeah, so... And here's another poll this week. Well, this is from 14th of October. SNP 61 seats. This is for the Scottish Parliament, I think. Yeah, Holyrood. Reform 22, so that's a lot higher. Labour 18, down 4. Tories 10, down 21. Wow. Greens 9 seats, up 1. That's a surprise. Lib Dems 9 seats, +5. So, yeah. So Reform doing really well there, and SNP wouldn't have the majority. I don't know where this poll is. I haven't really found it. It seems to be for the Herald, the Scottish Herald, or whatever you call it, newspaper. It used to be called the Glasgow Herald. Yeah, so this guy's, or lady, I don't know, done a good job. They've made their own graph. And apparently SNP will be on 62 seats. Reform 21. Let's see. Yeah, because we've got this 2-vote system. This is. Let's see, where would Reform come from? I don't know how you work it out, really. They're turquoise Reform, all over the place by the looks of it, I think. Here's that Scottish Survation poll, and so it reckons that first one is the first past the post vote, the second one's a regional vote, PR. So SNP would be 34 and 29, Reform would be 22 and 20, so that's much higher than that other one that had Reform around about 16%, and I think that's more accurate in my opinion. That's what I get the feeling it's about. Labour 18, 17, so I'm surprised they're still holding on, but in Scotland they've got a real legacy vote. I don't know why, really. Tories 10, 12, they seem to have vanished their voters, probably to Reform mostly. Lib Dems 8, 10, apparently that's a good result for them. Greens 7, 10, I thought they would be higher, but there you go. And Alba 1, 2, so they're just hanging on. They were without Alex Salmond anymore, of course. That's nearly a year he's been gone, I think. But anyway, that's all for now, really. So that's it, really. So anyone afraid who wants to vote Reform but feels too ashamed or whatever, vote Reform. You know, single issue vote, referendum issue. Think of it that way. Think of each election as a referendum, including council by-elections. You know, forget all the in-house arguing or whatever makes you scared to switch. You know, think of your grandchildren, children, and that. Okay, that's all for now. Bye bye.